And welcome back to the second minus 16 in 2 weeks. We are back with a vengeance after that little hiatus over the New Year break. As I said, we are here and back. And if you're watching the video side of the podcast, you'll see that we're joined by Kyle Erickson from Canada. Kyle, good morning to you, isn't it? Yeah, it's early in the morning for you.
Yeah, morning. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. And obviously, Daniel and Alex are with us as well. So it kind of fits together that I'm over here in Apple land. We've got Daniel over there in Samsung land, and Alex and Kyle are both cross borders, use both. So there's been quite a busy week this week for Samsung boys. Good views, good clicks, good videos. I know Kyle has just got his hands on the S25 Ultra. Is that right? The Ultra?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Now, sitting back, I've got to say, I've kind of recognized some of the attention that the Samsung's been getting this week with the, well, what's new? There's nothing. It's just the same phone as last year. Why bother? Samsung, what have you done? You can wince all you like, Daniel. I've been smiling at this because iPhone users get it every single year. So, I mean, I guess if I just let you three have a chat, how's it been to use? I know, Kyle, you only got yours yesterday, but I'm just wondering, first impressions and then how you guys have found using it so far.
I think as far as the design goes, just my initial impressions of holding the phone, I like the look of it a little bit more than the S24 Ultra, but I find where the S24 Ultra dug in the corners a little bit in my palms, that feels a little bit more comfortable, but I do find the sharper edges and are the sharper edges just around the phone in general are kind of uncomfortable. But obviously you're gonna have a case on there anyways, but yeah, I don't have a case yet, so I've just been using it without, and yeah, I don't particularly think there's a big change in that regard, but and then just in terms of the overall feel and everything, I still have to get used to the phone, I guess, and kind of play around a little bit more.
And just before Daniel joined us, I know you were talking about some of the issues you had with log, and Alex, and I know you and Alex are talking about it, but just because bring Daniel up to speed on the issues you were finding with the log recording.
Yeah, so one of the things I love about my iPhone is I can record in log and I can color match pretty close to my Sony cameras. And the nice thing about log is it removes a lot of the processing that you get over processing on phones. And hopefully that's the same case with Samsung. I've been shooting a little bit of log, but I haven't looked at it yet. But the issues that I find are when I go into my iPhone camera and shoot log, I still got the same UI, still have the same frame rate options and everything. Everything's pretty predictable. So I can switch lenses between ultra wide standard and telephoto. That's all fine. When I go into the Samsung camera app without doing anything, just basically open up the phone and start using it. I go to the pro mode and I'm able to shoot 24 frames per second, which is what I shoot in. But when I start recording, before recording, I can select the lens to shoot from. But when I start recording, that goes away and I'm just left with a little slider that I think it's just a digital zoom in and out. So you can kind of get around that, I found, by enabling log in regular camera mode, but then you can't shoot in 24 FPS. So it's just kind of janky in that regard.
Daniel, you were showing something on the screen there.
Yeah, I was just checking to see. I think in pro video mode, you can't switch, or there's no easy toggle. That slider is there in pro video mode. Whereas, as you said, normal video mode, you can jump between the wide. It still changes to those lenses when you slide through, I think, in pro video mode, but it's not as smooth as transition as what you're maybe hoping for with just a quick button press. But yeah, that's the difference between pro video mode and
Yeah, I
normal video
noticed
mode.
last night when I was using it, it wasn't retaining focus very well. So I would use that little slider and zoom in, and it would look sharp initially, but as I would zoom in, it would kind of get fuzzy on me. So I am curious to see what that looks like, testing it out a little bit more.
And I know, Alex, in your video this week, it was kind of like some real world use cases. So presumably you've been in shooting log on it. How have you
Yeah.
found that?
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it's
obviously you shoot
awesome.
log on both log and on iPhone and on the Samsung.
Yeah, I was just chatting to Kyle because I think we use a similar, if not the same camera. So I use both the A7S III and the FX 3. And yeah, the good news is most of my LUTs that I use, which is a combination of things that I've been playing around for the last 4 or 5 years, I was just able to drop those same LUTs onto the log footage of the Samsung, and it wasn't exactly the same, but it was pretty damn close. So I think, um, yeah, people who work with video and log will appreciate that. I think Samsung will eventually give us some other LUTs because at the moment you can, once you play back the video, you can on the phone apply they call it a color correction, which is basically just a Rec 709, I think, conversion. But I just appreciated the fact that it was easy to edit with, and you were talking about the kind of traditional, you can call it like a smartphone look, which is the over sharpened sometimes. In some, especially landscape shots, you might get this. The grass looks almost plasticky because it's so processed. Samsung, if you download the camera assistant app, you get some extra options. Definitely recommend. I don't have an auto exposure problem here, but I'll fix that in a minute. Um, but with that camera assist app, which you can get from the Samsung store, it will open up, I don't know, about 15, 20 other options, including a softening option. So I think it's almost them recognizing that, you know, it's still a digital processing going on, but you can artificially soften it, which is, I haven't really used that much, but it's there for us to use, which is good.
And the whole S Pen story. So, I mean, we talked about it briefly on the pod last week, where they've taken away. I'm right in thinking, isn't it? It's the Bluetooth options are basically gone, where you can use it as a camera shutter. I don't know if that's something you used a lot, Kyle, or not, and if you're missing it, but it seems that it's pulled more attention on the pen this week than it has the phone itself, pretty much. But are you right in thinking that, reading between the lines?
I don't really use the S Pen, to be honest. Like outside of testing and um, just to try things out and uh, put it in a review for other people. I'm not a huge S Pen guy, so I could see using it for a camera shutter would be useful, but I mean, outside of that, like I don't. That's not my fitting.
And Daniel, I know you've been on Twitter this week talking about it. It does seem to
Oh,
have got a fair old bit of attention, doesn't it?
well, there was a like, whole furor. I was on the plane coming back from Unpacked, and I bought internet because it's a 14-hour flight and I don't sleep. And just halfway through the flight, someone's noticed this article that said Samsung were going to start selling a Bluetooth S Pen for the S25 Ultra. And I was like, no way. Everything we've been told, there's no way. It just can't happen. So anyway, I looked at the two bits of evidence that were put onto Twitter, and I thought, no, they're both mistakes. Like one of them is a blog article on a Samsung blog website that is not, I guess, a marketing website. It's like an educational thing for businesses to visit. There's no affiliation to Samsung's marketing whatsoever. And this freelance journalist wrote, "Oh yeah, there's going to be a S Pen that supports Bluetooth, sold separately." And then Amazon UK had a listing for an S Pen with Bluetooth. So everyone was like, "Yay, rejoice!" And all of a sudden, people started posting on Twitter, "You can now buy the S25 Ultra. Relax, it's got Bluetooth with the S Pen." And they were pulling their affiliate links up, and they were publishing articles and making videos telling people to buy the phone with their affiliate codes to sell the phone and make money off it. And it didn't sit right with me. So I started this whole, I guess, back and forth with a lot of different people saying you can't. And meanwhile, I was emailing Samsung. We were messaging with people. I got a hold of the chief marketing officer. And anyway, 24 hours later, we sorted it. There is no Bluetooth with the S Pen. but that's pretty much the number one comment I get in my videos.
Mm.
Despite the fact that Samsung said less than 1% of people use it, that's pretty much dominated 90% of my comment section when it comes to the phone, because
But
apparently
I
that
think
1% is quite loud.
vocal, yeah. I think we've all found that though. It's always that one tiny little element. Either you make a mistake talking about it, you get a detail wrong on it, and that's the part that everyone will pick up on and always comment on your video. Well, you didn't get that right. I mean, presumably, Carl, you get that with you know, when you're posting videos as well with the comments. There'll be one tiny little detail that somebody will pick up on and just bang on about that, and suddenly becomes like the focus point almost. Yeah, I think it's the pain point of the videos, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've had that with so many videos. It's just you're always gonna get things wrong, and then there may be things that you don't necessarily get wrong, but maybe they don't come out the right way, or you just misspeak or whatever it is. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of those. And the best you can do is just kind of comment or whatever if you make a mistake. But pretty
Put it
used to
this
that.
way, over the past few weeks, gigabits and gigabytes have become quite a thing for me to make sure I get right with my videos. I think, Daniel, didn't you put something up and saying, geez, you must be fun at a party? Because somebody was banging on and on about he doesn't even know the difference between bits and bytes.
And the thing
Some
is with those,
absolute morons.
and the thing is with those is like you'll often find even when you get them right with bits and bytes, you'll still get comments saying that you're wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I was going down this rabbit hole after the comments were coming through, thinking, right, I've got to nail this. And of course, you know, as you said, no matter how much you try and make it right, somebody's going to say, no, you still said bytes. It should have been bits there, mate. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going to just call it gigs from now on. Just play it completely safe on it. So, I mean, you haven't obviously, I'm guessing you'll have a video coming up comparing the Ultra to the iPhone, will you? And I'm guessing the same for you, Alex. You'll be doing that as well.
Definitely.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about my focus, my Sony camera. I was just praising it. Now I'm like, what the hell's going on? Anyway, you can imagine me in focus. I was just saying, this year is the first time that I'm not rushing to do an iPhone comparison. I don't know what it is about the current iPhone version and my specific unit as well, because I'm actually going to take it back to Apple because it's not normal. You know, I had someone helping me with the camera the other day, and it's just, I don't know, it feels slow, and not joking, 2-3 times a week it will actually physically crash, like just black out. And you know, I might be driving somewhere and like using the maps, and it would just completely go. And like, you know, for a pro device of, you know, of the iPhone's sort of stature, it shouldn't really be happening. So I think I'm not rushing for that comparison because of that. I think it would be just me bashing the iPhone.
I think you got I think you got a dodgy handset, because I was watching you did a 6-month iPhone video last week, didn't you, Carl?
I did. To be honest, I gave the iPhone a fair go this time. I was going to spend the whole month of November last year using the iPhone only using the Apple ecosystem. And it turned out to be a 52 days because it's so hard to move one way or the other. But yeah, the iPhone is at the moment for me the weakest link in the Apple ecosystem. I love the Macs. Had a great experience, you know, in editing. I mean, it carries the channel really. The Macs, Mac Minis have been amazing. The iPad is actually awesome as well. The iPad Pro, the iPad Mini, with its limitations, but it's the iPhone for me that feels like it could be so much more. And Apple focused on, I don't know, the last 2-3 years on very cosmetic, like external changes, like the dynamic island, the action button, and the camera control button. And it's just, hasn't done much for me personally.
And Kyle, last week you did a 6-month video, didn't you, on the iPhone?
Yes, 4 months, I think it was.
4 months, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my experience has been fine for the most part, but
And that's the
like
Pro
Alex
Max,
is
right?
saying, mine's just the Pro.
Pro, yeah,
Um,
mine.
and like Alex is saying, like the changes and updates, a lot of them I just don't find that particularly useful. Really on both platforms to some extent. But with the iPhone specifically, like the camera control button, I guess is somewhat useful. I think I said in my video, like the only couple of instances where I've used it has been like maybe a little bit for the visual intelligence, more so just to play around with that feature. But I
Mm.
have used it outside uh, more often. It gets fairly cold here sometimes, and when I'm outside and I've got gloves on, um, it can be handy for like taking photos with gloves on without fumbling around on the screen. But
Mm.
um, my general experience has been pretty good. Uh, Not really
Yeah.
any like big issues. Just like obviously with a smaller phone, the battery isn't as good as some of these like 6.8-inch devices.
Mm. I know
And
it would be a very easy video for me to make right now, and it'll probably get a lot of views if I just bashed the iPhone. But deep down, I know that I would be doing a yeah. It wouldn't be it would just be fun to make it and get lots of clicks. But I'm not sure it would be
Man,
realistic
I've
because I
got the
just know the
title.
phone, even though the phone is not doing for me. I know, and I've done those in the past, but I think
What's
one of
wrong
those
with
things
the
where
iPhone 16 Pro Max? Done.
everything,
Thumbnail sorted. And
everything.
then that's an instant hit.
I know.
I think you
It's
have.
just,
I,
I think as a, we've, I don't know, that's a question for you as well, Kyle, because obviously you just hit your 100K milestone. And I wonder if you kind of have the same thoughts when you're growing an audience, you get, consistent fans coming in, and you probably recognize some of those hardcore fans that come to the channel for you. And I wonder, as you grow, do you think before you put out a content, that do you think differently in terms of, do you think that, oh, maybe I have more responsibility now in my opinions, or do you just try to kind of stay as you were?
Yeah, I think um, I kind of had that hit me a little bit when I hit like 100K, like the responsibility aspect of it, where it's not just me having fun in front of a camera, like playing around or whatever as much anymore. But um, I don't know. I feel like I've always kind of approached this and try to get information right and try to just like provide value in some way to people and draw on my own experience and stuff.
Mm,
So it's just generally I've gone about things relatively the same, but there was definitely like a moment where I was just like, man, this I feel like there's a lot more eyeballs on me. I want to make sure that I want to get this stuff
yeah,
right. And then yeah, just definitely got that feeling for
yeah,
sure.
that's good. I mean, I
Meanwhile,
feel the same way. Sorry, Daniel. I was going to say, I think it's nice that we make mistakes sometimes, and it's kind of show a little bit of a human side to us as well. But you're
yeah,
right.
I only put them in just to show that I'm a human. That's the only reason I include
I've
my errors every time.
I've I filmed 3 videos last week with my shirt inside out. So and
Yeah.
2 of them have been uploaded, and it took ages for someone to realize, like, "Hey, is your shirt inside out?" Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, since you went to Unpacked, has that made any difference to your channel noticeably, Daniel? I mean, either in the amount of subs or the kind of viewers you're getting? Because obviously going to Unpacked is a big step forward to be there at the event itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I've actually noticed more on social media, like my threads and my Twitter has actually gone up heaps in terms of following count off the back of just posting a bit more regularly from being there and just early access to the phone and all that sort of stuff. Uh, YouTube wise, the views are there or thereabouts, but I've posted probably, I think maybe too much. I just took a bit of a step back today and I went, I've compared to last year, my views actually did better and I was posting less in terms of videos. So I think maybe I've tried to use the time I've got to and I've done it too quickly. That's not been bad. Like AdSense has
Mm,
actually been really good and still views and subscriber counts still consistent. It's just not as big of a growth as I was maybe expecting. But this isn't really my time. My time with this phone will be the next 4 months. That's when I kind of hit my stride when it comes to the camera tutorials, the more finite sort of how-tos, that's when I
The
sort of start
evergreens,
to
yeah.
find that's the stuff I sort of will live with later on. So Unpacked hasn't really, I always say, because of my sort of good relationship and standing, Samsung have trusted me to have the phone early, like before Unpacked. So like Unpacked wasn't crucial for what I needed to do. It's more, I
Okay.
didn't have to go. It was nice to go. I'm definitely not complaining and made some really good connections, but it wasn't crucial.
Yeah,
So let's
and I
get
think
into the.
last
I
year
mean, I
you
think
had so there was I think from a access to the device you had the same as well, right? You had very early
Yeah,
access to the
it
device,
was about probably a week before, whereas this time it was like
3 weeks or
well
something.
before. Yeah,
Yeah.
well before.
So I think it's probably a good point, because but other than the S25, there's not actually that much. I know there's a couple of Android things that you've been covering, Alex, but I mean, I think now with Carl with us, it's probably a good time to pivot into talking some of the, strategy of YouTube. So, I mean, I think I was just looking, you've done 200 odd videos, I think, Carl. So, I mean, what's your upload process then? Are you a once a week, or have you got a fixed strategy and a fixed upload time, or?
Yeah, so I generally like to upload once a week. Um, and I schedule videos, excuse me, for Sunday morning usually. I just have found that is what has worked best for me. And so I do have like a general process I go through in terms of like days scheduled for one and scripting and doing A roll and B roll and editing and all that stuff. But I think the the downside for me has been I've been so um structured and focused on posting weekly videos. Sometimes I put a lot of effort into those videos, like um at least 40 or 50 hours a week, um scripting and planning things out. And so I've been kind of get out of the habit of thinking that I need to do that so much, and maybe figuring out ways of making videos shorter or taking a week off here and there. But um, definitely like to post on the same day at the same time, just so people kind of know when they can expect videos from me.
I know we've spoken about it because Daniel, for me, it's always about midday on Sunday that it lands for me. It's almost routine. You know, obviously we're talking different corners of the world here, but I know every time it's Sunday lunchtime, I know it's going to come out. Alex, I know you quite often land one on a Saturday afternoon as well, don't you?
I wish I could have a schedule like that. Yeah, it's just I try to if I can once a week is my kind of default. Right now it's been more, but timing wise, I always use the kind of the topic as my guide. If it's an S25 Ultra video and it's ready like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. UK, which is about 4 or 5 hours late usually, I'll upload it anyway because it's just a hot topic and people, it seems to work well. If I was to upload a Mac Mini video right now, probably I would wait until peak hours. So for me, either Friday 9 a.m. EST or um, Saturday, same time. But yeah, I think with Kyle, one of the things I appreciate, and I think we talked about it before with other creators here, and I'm sure our audience will appreciate us on knowing what he does, is you've got a visual look that is very unique. I mean, I can spot your thumbnail from a
I
mile.
was just
Like
looking
I
at
know
those,
is your channel. Have you spent a lot of time on that, or have you just come across something that worked and you stuck with it? And talk to us a little bit about that, because I think you've got a background as well in graphic designing, right? So it'll be interesting to hear how important that is.
Yeah, so my background is more so, I would say, in like software development, but I've done my fair share of design work as well. And so I know my way around those tools really well, but it's just something that I've really worked at. I think the thumbnail aspect of it, during COVID, I started taking a lot more product photos and stuff like that. I got into like
Mm.
posting photos on Instagram and kind of had like a little community there that uh, I followed and interacted with. And I think that's where I really got better at
Mhm.
that skill set. And it was all about learning how to take those photos, how to make them better, and then just slowly kind of refining my skill set. Um, I didn't pick up a camera, I don't think, until like 2019. So,
Right.
and have no background. I didn't have any background in photography or anything. So it's just been a combination of learning and sort of finding my own style, and then drawing on some of my experience with graphic design and even learning somewhat um, with that stuff as well. If there's something that
Mm.
I didn't know how to do or that I wanted to do, like just digging in and finding out how to do it.
It's always
And
good.
you were
I mean,
talking about sort of
it's a good lesson, I think, for anyone kind of wanting to start in this content creation business, right? Which is, you might not know, or you might think it's something, something challenging to recreate. And I've used some of that kind of tactic of just copy someone until you get the skill kind of nailed, and then create your own style on top of that. I think that's a really good recommendation there.
I would say so. When I started really like focusing on YouTube, I'd say like 2021. It's been sort of like from that point on. It wasn't like a short process by any means. It's just been constant refinement, and even like in the videos themselves, um,
Mm.
they generally had like the same look to some extent for a couple years now. But I have went through and made minor tweaks based on things that I've seen or that things other people have commented or mentioned uh, over time. Just recurring comments that I would see every once in a while in terms of like what things look like. And so it's just been sort of like a constant process of refining things.
I know Alex was just talking to you just before Daniel joined us and we start recording about the audio side of it. I think Alex was saying that you put a lot of time and effort into audio. So let's kind of talk gear, camera wise. What are you recording on most of the time, and how many cameras do you shoot on?
I've got two cameras right now. One is Sony A7 IV that I was using predominantly up until I would say December or so, and mid-December, and then I got an FX30 just because it's a little bit lighter, more video features, and pretty affordable cameras. Though that's actually what I'm on right now. But yeah, I just have that with. I usually have a mist filter over that, both of those cameras. Um, Normally, I shoot the regular zoom lens on both of them. So I think I have like a 28-75 on my A7 IV that I use most of the time. But as far as the audio stuff goes, that's, I haven't really worked on that. Uh, Normally, I'm using a Sennheiser MKH416. I still have to figure out this room. I just redid this room, renovated this room that I record in. So I'm still waiting on some wall coverings and some sound absorbing materials and stuff, but it's a little echoey in here. But um, I am able to reduce quite a bit of reflection and stuff in post, which is something that I've really worked on. I use like a whole bunch of different tools and play around with that stuff a ton to try and get a decent overall sound. So the built-in tools into like I film in or edit in Final Cut Pro, and like the voice isolation in there is pretty good. Um,
Mm.
Normally, if you've got like a room without a lot of echo in it, even if there is some, it'll work pretty good.
Mm.
Another tool that I use is called Isotope RX11, which is
Mm.
super expensive, but really, really good. So they've got voice or dialogue isolate plugins in there that you can drop into Final Cut Pro and use, but those are really, really good. Normally you can't like throw them on a clip and edit your clip. You either have to do it before or after you edit, just because even that's the only thing that makes my Mac Mini the fans start screaming when I throw those plugins on. But yeah, it's that's predominantly what I use to get things right, and just like some EQing and stuff. And again, same process as everything else. It's just um, going in and learning as much as I can about how everything works and how to EQ something, and then making a preset. Otherwise, I'll just forget everything, which happens to me a lot. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Because Daniel's the only one still working in Audition in Premiere. I switched from Premiere about this time last year over to Final Cut, and I think voice isolation was one of the main reasons. Well, I mean, Premiere is brilliant at what it does, and I've always sort of maintained probably it's a higher end. I think if you know more what you're doing, you can go further. With Premiere was probably my takeaway. I say that as a complete amateur, but Final Cut gets a really good result really quickly, and there's some very friendly plugins for it. But I know you're still in Premiere with obviously because you decided not to go the Mac Mini route, you're still going to be stuck with Premiere for a while to come yet.
Yeah, and Premiere Pro 2025 is buggy as anything. I've
Is
had
it?
nothing but problems in the first few weeks of this year using the 2025 version, but I've committed to it now. Like all my projects that I've started are in there. So every time, like one shut down on me today, and I went to open it in 2024 Premiere and it said, "Oh, you can't do that." I went, "Oh, but you're the same program." But no, they
And that's the thing.
can't. But I
Once you
stopped.
committed to it, right?
Yeah.
It's tricky to
I've
move. I mean, I want to try DaVinci, which a lot of people say is kind of more kind of capable
Colorist,
for
isn't it?
color grading and things like that. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm struggling for time as it is. So, and not only that, right? Commitment is just not in the skill that you learned, but also the amount of money you spend on plugins and things like that too.
Plugins.
Some of
Yeah.
which you would lose if you move software.
And I think in large part, a lot of these tools, especially something like DaVinci, I know for me, like I've played around with it as well, but I just find something like YouTube, Final Cut Pro is just so easy to work with, and I can still color grade videos in Final Cut Pro. I'm not making a film, so
Yeah.
like they're good enough, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of went
absolutely.
down that rabbit hole thinking, I'm shooting videos, so now I'm a filmmaker. And then I tried to get over clever with it. And of course, that's not what YouTube's about. You look at some of the best videos out there, and virtually all of that content I watch is just bright, sharp, punchy, colorful, but it really hasn't got cinematic LUTs on it. They're not trying to, it's a totally different look. And the people that do that are a different niche to us. They tend more lifestyle channels as well, don't they? I think for tech, it's just bright, punchy, deliver your point, deliver the story. And the videos, not a second part of it, but it's not as important perhaps as we want. I'd love it to be looking cinema, but I know that's not what YouTube wants.
You
It's
do all
very
that
easy
work
for,
only for YouTube to show it in 480p as well.
Yeah. It's getting worse and worse in that sense. But I think it's very easy for us in tech. It's a great point, David, because I think we could focus so much on camera gear and audio gear and whatever, and then be almost stifled by that, and not focusing on the content. Recently, due to the pressure of this time, I mean, it's the first year that actually I got early access to a Samsung device, which also on launch day I had the phone, which is usually 2 weeks. I have to wait 2 weeks to get it. So I was conscious of that time and maybe not spending as much time in my reviews, just focusing on what's hot at the moment and releasing the videos. What I've learned in that process was that people don't care so much about the gear, but the actual the actual content, and putting those hot problems right at the front of the video made a huge difference. People are responding really well to that. So I think the lesson I'm learning is even if I have a feeling, even if I recorded those entire 2 videos that I've done, or 4 videos I've done on Samsung on my phone, they would have done probably just as well, because what I'm talking about there, what I'm delivering in the content, is what people want to see.
Yeah,
but I don't
it's
know.
the content that's the king, isn't it? Do
People
you
also
spend long
comment,
in?
about different angles when you use them, different lighting when you improve your lighting. So I think it all adds up, but gear is probably not the first thing we should focus on.
No, that's what this podcast is for. We can nerd out about gear. How long do you spend in your analytics, Carl?
Not very much, to be honest. I peek at like general analytics, like how well video is performing, click-through rates, and just basic stuff. But I'm not one of those people who digs through analytics a lot. I never really have, and it's worked well for me so far. So um, I guess I feel like I'm almost in a different place than some people are, I guess, with YouTube. I feel like I always have other things to fall back on, and um, I don't. My primary goal, really, with anything that I've done, has never really been like a monetary thing. I just want to do something that I really enjoy doing, which is why I do this. And so, with the analytics and everything, sure, I want to make sure that like my videos perform well and um like they're coming across okay, and that there's no like real dips in performance. But ultimately, my videos are more just an expression of a lot of it's like an almost just artistic expression, an expression of me and my experience with something. So I generally try and focus more so on that stuff um, than the analytical side of things. But I definitely like um, really pay close attention to titles and what works. But a lot of it is more like content structure for what works. Not necessarily looking at retention times and graphs and stuff, but just noticing um, how well a video performs compared to the structure it's written in a script, or how it's presented, I guess. So a lot of it's more, I would say, uh, feel based in that sense almost.
So do you fully script?
Yeah, for sure. I would say I can be a perfectionist to a fault, where I need to let some of that go sometimes. So I'm always checking everything over, and I'm trying to make sure
Mm.
there's no errors or anything, that everything kind of segues okay into between different sections and all that stuff.
And I think I saw one of your cutaways, Alex, recently. It looks like are you on auto cue on your videos? Is it just bullet points, or is it fully scripted?
On my videos,
Yeah.
um, it's a mix. So what I've been doing and practicing a lot with is saying at least the first 3 minutes of the video to camera as if I was recording, and then do it again. And I'm leaving gaps in the script for free rolling, because I think it's important sometimes I don't know what it is about reading, even though most of us, by now we are kind of writing as we speak. It's still, because you're reading, I don't know what it is. It might be your facial expression, whatever it is. To me, it feels like I'm still limited. And I've learned that mostly because when I'm doing my Brazilian channel videos, I have the script almost as a comfort blanket, and it's rolling as I speak. It kind of the app sort of listens to what I'm saying and
Mm.
rolls.
Mm.
But I've noticed that I'm not actually reading. It's just there as a safety measure in case I forget what I need to say. So I'm kind of glancing at the topics, and I do kind of make it so it's easy to read. But I've now adapting that to the English version, so allowing gaps in there for me to just free roll a little bit. If it's something that you're passionate about, it will just come out, right? But it's
Mm.
I've tried. I think last year I've tried just a more comfy sort of look. Sometimes in a video, just go sit down on the sofa and just talk, and I'm awful at that. I need to practice more because I think Daniel, I envy you because you have just bullet points, right? And you just rolls off that, and I'm not that
Sometimes I have
articulate, I'm
nothing.
afraid.
Sometimes I have a title. I think the What's Wrong video, I had a title and then I just had a loose structure in my head and I just pressed record and then that video came out. And then
That's
like I
great.
don't
Yeah,
my A roll, if I have an A roll that goes longer for 30 minutes, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a painful edit. I try and keep it tight and the videos are like normally between 10 and 15 if I keep it tight. Um,
yeah.
I don't know. I just find same with you with the auto cue stuff. I can tell when I'm watching someone and their eyes are darting left to right. Like when I watch Linus Tech Tips or Linus, I can see him reading like the auto cue just above his
He's very
camera.
well
Like I
written,
can
though.
see it.
Yeah,
It's
he's
very
well
well
written.
written and
Yeah.
he's a very good, like he's very well structured in how he does it. And he can ad
Mm.
lib and he always cuts away and makes it look fun. But you can tell. Whereas I have a little bit of a bullet point next to me and then like if you were to watch my cutaways, there's a whole like 20 seconds where I'm looking down to see what the next section is and going, yep, and then I'll just look back up.
That's what
But
Marquez
that's the
does, I
magic
think.
of
I do
editing.
that when I film externally. That's what I do. I have a phone, I read, and then I deliver it, and then look at my.
Mm,
It's painful. I wish I could just memorize it and then just go.
mm.
I have
It's too
respect for
hard.
actors. Now, when I look into a complete scene, I think, Jesus, you've actually remembered lines. That's not as easy as it looks. You've just done lines. How do they do it, you know?
Mm,
It's,
Yeah, I feel like I I definitely have points where, especially if I mess up or something and I go to correct something, I'll just like sort of freewheel on camera in a different setting or something like that sometimes, or even sit in the same space. And a lot of times, what happens with me too, if I'm reading off script and it just doesn't sound right, I may just like scrap that part and just uh talk a
mm.
bit against like freewheeling, but I envy anyone who can just sit down for 30 minutes and record something because for me it takes so long. I'm so I
Mm.
think aware of how I'm speaking that to some extent it it's just a waste of time because I can sit in front of a camera for an hour and
Right.
shorten that to 12 minutes, right?
For a
Like
10-minute video, yeah, yeah.
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 Same.
I think I've kind of got it, like my background lends itself to what I do now. Like I used to present to audiences 100, 200 people, and sometimes with little to no notice. Like, hey,
So Daniel
we've
worked
got
for Samsung, Carl.
I
That
did. I
was his
worked for
job.
Samsung as learning and development. My
We
role
have them
was
all.
I was a product trainer, so I knew the phones inside out. My job was to deliver the training to people. So sometimes you'd say, "Hey, Daniel, we've got this event tonight. There's 200 people. Can you come and speak and present about the new phone?" And you'd have nothing prepared, but maybe some visuals, and you just have to go out there and do it. So like I've come from that background and we did lots of media training and presentation training. So it kind of works out that this is what I do now. It's a bit more natural for me, but I
Mm.
also envy the people who structure it to a degree where it's like super, like got a nice flow to it. Like everyone envies the other side,
The,
I
the
guess you could
grass is
say.
always
Mm.
greener.
The grass is
Yeah.
always greener. The grass is always greener.
It's only
But I
something
also
that
like my way because I've kind of got no choice sometimes. Like I've got a 2 hour block where there's no kids, no one in the house. I'm like, right, turn the camera on, record 3 A rolls, have something in the bank for when you
I think
don't have this time again.
having that pressure helps because you're kind of like, I just need to do it. Sometimes if you
Yeah.
have time, you do. I mean, I do what Kyle does. I spend maybe too much time focusing on that intonation wasn't right. I got to repeat it until I
Mm.
feel like it's, it's
Oh,
coming
there's no
across
repeats
right.
here, baby. It's just
Um,
straight for
but
one
the one
take and
thing,
done.
yeah, the one thing I noticed, just in the last video, I had someone, so Shiv, she's actually here in in the studio right now. I asked her to film, like, instead of putting another camera as a B angle on a tripod, I said, can you just hold and just kind of, get some interesting angles? So I'm talking to this camera, and she's kind of left and right, sort of filming, sometimes zooming into the product if I'm holding it, and I'm just adding those little bits my idea was just to add those as almost gap fillers where I'm editing. But actually, what I noticed was having her in the room made me focus more on delivering because I'm like, I don't want to waste her time now, you know. So I don't know. It wasn't like a one and done, but I recorded I think 4 videos in one sitting, and yeah, that was crazy. So I don't know. Maybe I just need to have someone in the room all the time.
Yeah, and I often find like I'll record multiple takes of the same like paragraph or whatever that I've got scripted is more of like a uh just so I have it in case I make a
An
mistake.
insurance.
Exactly. And sometimes I'll record the same thing like multiple times, and I'm playing it back and like it all sounds the same, and I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? This is completely unnecessary.
Yeah, because we're all
Indeed.
after that perfection. Well, at that
It's a-
point, and in our heads, we can hear it. Oh, that's the one. That sounds perfect. In actual fact, we know it makes no difference to the video. I was microanalyzing this edit yesterday, and I know no one will
No.
notice it. And
I
I
even
just
got
thought
to the
myself,
point
I've been
where
25 minutes.
if I messed up and my hand is like this, when I do the next bit, I have to go, "Oh, how was my hand?" It's like no one's gonna pay attention. But my problem here is also lighting. If I'm recording at night, I don't care because you know I can record for an
Dark is
hour,
dark,
it'll
yeah.
look exactly the same. But right now, the light is always changing, so that's another problem, right? Because it's like, oh my god, the light just changed, and yeah. But yeah, I think ultimately a little bit of B-roll on top, no one will
We know
notice.
had Daniel in his hand gate. You had a whole load of people going on, didn't you? About you using your hands and
Because I'm Italian, I just naturally have an inclination for these to move as I'm speaking. And people would often say, "You're so distracting." I'm like, "Well, get used to it. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
Can't help it."
Is this a full-time gig for you, Carl?
Yeah. So I've been doing this I think for 3 years full time now, just about or somewhere around there. I think like I was working full time as an engineering manager before and trying to upload weekly at the same time. And basically YouTube took up like all my spare time. And that my job got really stressful around the time that there was basically when all the tech layoffs started happening, like right at the beginning of that. And it was, I think, right before, but I could kind of see what was going on, and there was a lot of stuff happening where I was working at the time that just added a whole bunch of stress to uh, just to what I was doing, and I kind of had a couple of videos that really popped and did really well with affiliate sales. Didn't really have any brand income or anything like that at the time, but it was enough that I could consider it a full-time wage. It wasn't the highest in the world, but um, I just decided to kind of make the jump, and I think I only had like 7,000 subscribers or something like that at
Wow.
the time.
Wow.
That is a brave jump.
I mean, I think I was lucky in that I've kind of been smart with money and financially and stuff. So it was a jump, but um, I was prepared financially if anything happened or it did work out. It long term wouldn't really have much effect on me. So I always, and like I said, I always had something to fall back on if I needed it to. I've got other skill sets. So, um, yeah, it was less of a risk for me than it is for a lot of folks, I think.
But I think too, this kind of goes back to Alex, what you kind of say is when you reach a certain level, and if you've reached that certain level quickly, perpetually you just grow, especially if you start to spend more time on it. Like when you went full time at 7,000, some people would have been like, well, 7,000 is not enough. But if your growth to 7,000 happened quite or quick enough, you could potentially, once you start to spend more time on it, that growth could just exponentially
Can be
start to sort of
exponentially, yeah.
keep going. Right. I went full time at 20,000 or 22. And when you devote time to something, it will grow especially if you've got a good base to start
Yeah.
from. So
That's
I
a good
think that's
point.
just
Yeah.
I
yeah.
felt like that with hiring a studio. I mean, I think I only had just about 20,000 subscribers, and a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, that's way too soon to do it. It's a bit of a risk." Not many sponsors at the time either, right? For me, so yeah. But I always thought to myself, the freedom to create, the kind of the headspace that it gives me just by being in a dedicated space, and also the visuals and whatever. People, when they meet me at events, usually other creators or people in the industry, they will always comment about the space. And it's, so even though it's an investment and it was a scary thing to do, right? 'Cause it's an expenditure that you need to then account for as a business. It was well worth it. And all I need is one sponsor a month to cover that, in some, right? But I'd say my next step, for example, is an editor. I'm thinking, I'd love to have one, but it would be a much bigger investment. I just know, like Daniel was saying, I just know that if I'm able to remove that bottleneck of editing, the growth would be exponential then, because instead of one video, I could do 2 videos a week and maybe have 2 sponsors, right? So I think it's a scary thing to do, and it's definitely wise to have a plan B. I still I haven't gone full time because of that, right? I still have another job, but it's getting closer to a point where I could just say, right, let's dedicate more time to this, because this is now a de facto business. But yeah, it's definitely a scary thing to do.
So 2 points to you there, Carl, leading on from what Alex was saying. Are you recording in a separate studio space as part of your home? And do you do all your own editing? And is it just you in the business, or have you got anyone else working with you?
Yeah, so I've done everything in my house, and it's sort of been like a slow process of um, having like small spaces within different rooms that are dedicated for what I do. Um, just after Christmas, I've kind of built out a space that's more so the a dedicated space. That's like the first time that I've kind of sat down, figured out what I want, and built it out. It's not the biggest in the world, but it works really well for what I'm doing. Um, but that's come over time. A lot of it initially is just like finding places that work in the house to film, and that kind of thing. Having like dual purpose rooms sometimes. But yeah, as far as working alone or with people, I've done everything myself up to this point. I am starting to work with someone a little bit that could potentially be an editor that is also a creator himself, or was, and shares a very similar aesthetic to me, which is very important to me. I think um, for me, finding the right people is important, because I think one thing people don't really consider when they bring people on and hire people, depending on what it is. Like if you're just contracting out your videos that or parts of your videos, that's fine. But I feel like um, you lose a little bit of a personal touch, I guess, if that's the route you go. So I want to work a little bit closer with people. So finding like-minded people is super important to me. So this has kind of been a recent thing where we're literally just starting to figure out how this is all going to work, uh, and how I edit, showing going through that whole process. But um, when you bring people on, I think it becomes less about you, or it should, anyways, and it's more about a team. So I want to make sure that I'm giving ownership a little bit to someone else, and they feel like they own a part of that process.
Part
I
of the team.
still want, um, obviously, I still want things to be a certain way and a certain aesthetic, and things to be following kind of the same process. But I think that's the tricky part for me is finding the right people who really fit into your process, and who you can introduce and give them that workflow, and where they have a little more say and can contribute to it, even in maybe areas that um, you aren't as proficient in. But yeah, it's just kind of getting to that point now where I can start to think about those things a little bit more.
Daniel, I know at one point last year you were talking about finding a unit away from home, and is that sort of now? It's obviously you're completely full time, and you've got the 2 channels that you're running as well. Is it any more realistic possibility? Because obviously, as you were just saying, you have to find time when the kids aren't around, and it would free your time up. You could just go to work.
Yeah. I look, and then it's the similar problem I had with the Mac Mini, where I look and I'm like, well, I kind of can work with what I've got now. Like, it's not broken. Why am I looking for a thing to fix it? And there's also the thing of the guilt of not being at home. I I left my job at Samsung because they made me go back to the office, and I wanted to work from home. And I'm like, well, I'm working from home now. Why am I looking to get out of here? So I kind of have just
Mm.
optimized the setup in my bedroom. I removed what my wife used to call mega desk. I used to have this big giant standing desk extension, and Dwight from The Office had this thing called mega desk because she started calling my desk mega desk. So I got rid of it, and I optimized the corner, and I've got the Sam Mobile space, which I film out here in the lounge room. And I just work around the family's time. And now that the kids are, Alberto, my son's back at school, my daughter's just started 2 days a week of kindy, I find like I will have more time now. And she just says, if you need to go edit videos, just go lock yourself in the room where the computer is and just work. She goes, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's just
I
so
think it
we're
helps
making it work a
when
bit better now.
yeah, I think it helps when you're doing it full time. I guess because I think for the first 2.5 years I was at home, and it's definitely doable, and I can enjoy that as well because you're at home. But my challenge was always my time. 9 to 5, I wasn't actually doing content creation, and the time I was trying to create was also the time my family was trying to enjoy
Family
themselves
time.
and chill at home. So it's kind of I felt guilty by encroaching on their time. So I think what I do now is a little bit healthier. I mean, we're all different, right? But I think I found it's within 20 minutes drive. It's on the way to kind of, there's a gym on the way as well. So in the morning, I do the school run, I drop my son at school, do the
I love
gym,
that you
then
call
come
that place
here.
a gym, by the way.
I was just waiting for Daniel to chime in about this gym. Carl, to bring you up to speed on this story, it's kind of a country club that Alex likes to make out as a kind of a Rocky Balboa gym that he goes, works out with sawdust on the floor. And Daniel's been there, and it's like, man, this place is lush.
It is
It's
it's just a
beautiful.
gym. But yeah, I think making that work around you rather than, so it doesn't feel that much that I'm going to work. But so sometimes I like, if I know that I've got a long edit, like last night, I'll close shop at 5, go home, spend some time with my family, have dinner, and then come back. And that doesn't feel like a massive. It's almost like it's not as convenient as just going downstairs or whatever. But it works.
I've been working at home since I think 2016, between being a software developer
Mm.
and a manager, now doing this. And I think one of the most important things to do is to set some kind of a boundaries. And I think that's why um, I've kind of sectioned off a space that I record and edit in now, that I can close and leave and separate, um, sort of work from home. Because what I really struggled with at first when I first started working from home was those lines get blurred so easily. And
Mm.
so work, at least for me, it is so much easier to become a part of uh, like your everyday life and more
Mm.
important than everything around you. And it's so easy to like just go back to that space. And
Mm.
for me, I would think that I would have to work a full 8-hour day when I was at work. So like I had to be at my desk for 8 hours, which is unrealistic. But just having it too close and too close a proximity without any kind of separation, um, it really, I don't think it's great for mental health. I think for me, I sort of like can focus too much on it, and then the context for like my life kind of revolves around it, and it becomes way more important than it actually is. So
Mhm.
just having some degree of separation
Separation. Yeah.
that is super important, even if you are working at home, so you can set some kind of boundaries. So I can definitely see the advantage of having like a separate space somewhere else, because that's a lot easier to separate than when you're at home.
Mm.
Mhm.
I think talking of separation, it's probably time we'll go and do what we've got to do with our days. So let's just do a round robin here. Carl, what's next for you today? I mean, it's 4 hours behind us, so you're 9 o'clock in the morning. Just got 9 in the morning. What are you going to be doing today?
I'm editing a long-term studio display review, kind of looking at it in terms of if it's still worth buying in 2025. So that'll probably take the majority of my day up.
Is that the
Daniel?
5K Apple monitor?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, because there's rumors of a new studio display coming out this year, isn't there?
There is, and there's just a lot of other options out there, and I've just had like, I don't know, it's decent for a lot of things that I do, but there's also some stuff that isn't great on it. So I've
It
already
looks
had the
awesome
panel
too.
replaced in mine once. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
I mean, I love mine. That's what I've worked on since it came out. But I know there are some other options out there. And so I'd heard these rumors there's going to be a new one this year. So that's a video I think I might be looking at some, because my studio display videos have historically done pretty well. Although you always get people saying it's just too expensive, and that's the end of their argument. It's too expensive. But Daniel, what's next for you?
Or bed, probably to start with.
Of course, yeah. Because okay, now you're 10 hours ahead of us, so you're
It's 11:15 p.m. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's nighttime. But I'm currently working on my S23 Ultra versus S25 Ultra video. Seemed to be the one people most requested in my poll that I did the other day. Newsflash, it's a pretty decent upgrade in terms of everything that you get from the S25 Ultra. But the S23 Ultra is still a lot of phone for a lot of people, for the most amount of people.
Agree.
But just holding that phone in your hands, you just remember like what a nice feeling phone
I
it
regret
was.
selling
Like
mine. It's such a
Samsung,
good phone.
yeah. You've got one in there in your office. Like I maintain that it is somewhere around there. I
Allegedly.
just don't know where, but it is somewhere where I left it, and I don't know where. But yeah, it's but the feeling of the S25 Ultra compared to it, it's like a whole phone less. It's like holding one less phone in your hand because of how much lighter it is. But anyway, that's coming out on Tuesday, I think. But I'm currently halfway through that.
And Alex, what are you finishing up today?
It's going to be Android focused, whatever I do right now. I do have a Mac Mini versus a Mini PC video that I've been working on for a month that needs to be finished. But right now, so today is going to be editing the Brazilian version of the video I uploaded 3 days ago, and then I'm working on a buying guide, which is also already recorded. The A roll is done, which should be fun. It's similar to what Daniel's working on, but is looking at, if you are on a S21 Ultra, should you go all the way up to S25 and so on? It's already recorded, so it'll be fun weekend editing. But I've also got
Editing time.
I think I like. I was just talking to Shiva earlier about not having just one thing to work on is really healthy at this point. Because I'm working on the Honor Magic 7 Pro full review. So every now and then, whenever I've got 5 minutes, I take a few shots. I post on Instagram or whatever. Just having multiple projects running at the same time, as long as you're not overwhelming yourself, I think is healthy, because it gives you a sense of progression. Even though it's small progression, at least you can see things moving. And I've got a OnePlus 13 phone arriving tomorrow, which is going to be fun as well over the weekend to just play with it and hopefully have a review of it next week.
There you go. Then. A peel back to what goes on with a content creator's life.
What about you,
before
David?
Video,
Yeah,
me,
exactly. What are you? Are you just chilling?
I'm feet up now. Best day, I'm done. You know, it's live at HQ here. I'll be editing this either tonight or tomorrow. A video just went live today, a little bit late because I was actually waiting on a sponsor to approve. They approved it first thing this morning. So going back to a conversation we had earlier on, I normally always have been a Thursday releaser, sort of like 7 o'clock in the evening, which is breakfast time US. But I just decided it was on the iPad Pro. It was a long-term review, and I thought that it'll pick up traction.
YouTube, where's my notification? I haven't got that.
There you go. There you go. YouTube helping us out here. Well, either you're not subscribed to me, just haven't got notifications turned on.
On the topic of sponsors, quickly,
Yeah.
I just had a sponsor yesterday. I go, hey, do you need to see the video before I publish it? They go, no, we trust you. And I just published it without having to send it to them.
Hallelujah.
I was like,
Well, also, before
what a
we will
life.
let you go, Carl, I promise we will let you go. But while we just talk about this, it was a sponsor I've been trying to get for ages and ages and ages. I think actually I got the details from you, Alex. I think ages back. Anyway, it's this week's video, so it's paper-like, you know. So, but it was just finally this week I put through my media pack to them. They just suddenly said, "Yeah, fine, we'll sponsor it." I was like, "Oh, how much?" And then they came back and said, "Yes, straight away." Oh, it's too cheap. Damn. There was no haggle. There was no
When they
dance.
say
I
yes
thought,
straight away,
damn.
you know you need to you need to feel slightly uncomfortable when you're giving the rate.
Exactly. There was no dancing. It's like, oh, damn. Okay. But anyway, they're a nice brand and they've been lovely to deal with. So that's just gone live. So I'll be dealing with that. And then also I've got a story ready to post on Medium. So I just need to get some pictures in there because Medium, as you know, is a good little revenue for me. So that will be my day. So I'll be editing, writing, posting kind of thing.
Nice.
But next is a ham and pickle sandwich.
Great talking to you,
That's
Kyle.
what I'm up for.
Thanks
Yeah,
everyone
Carl,
again.
thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me
Last
on.
video. Yeah. By the way, for all our viewers, thank you so much. I mean, last video we
Last
got
week.
so many new people coming in, so really appreciate that.
It really popped off. I think it's getting near 5,000 views now, and I think we got 80 and 90 subs or something out of it. It was awesome. So thank you.
There's
and the more
little
time we
babies
get great
growing.
guests. And yeah, absolutely. Carl, thank you so much for finding the time to be with us.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Man, it's awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. So it's back to the normal routine. Now we're back in 2 weeks' time. I know we've also got some other guests lined up. Alex has been speaking to people. Daniel's been speaking to people. So we've got other guests coming up. And hopefully, Carl, sometime down the line, you'll find time to come back with us as well. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Cheers off.